Hello students, I am Mr. Liu. Welcome to Integrated 1A Summer School. Welcome to our first lesson. And the good thing about video is that you can always record, rewind, and pause and go back. Alright, we're going to start our first lesson today, starting now. Alright, our first lesson will be focused on function. Okay, again, you can pause, rewind, and you can definitely watch it over and over again. Okay. So again, our first lesson today will be on function, and we're going to do some absolute value and some evaluating. Okay, but first thing before we start, what is a function? And I found this in your notes. It says a function is a relationship between the input values, which is x, and the output value, which is y, is called a function if for each input value there is no more than one output value. So what does that mean? Well, I like to explain that using a table. We could explain it later when we could use a graph or something like that. But for today, just a table, all right? So again, x cannot repeat if it can have y as a different number, all right? So this table itself is obviously a function because they all have different numbers. Now, again, I like to explain it by saying pretend x is time and y is some location. So time like 0, the beginning of the day, or you're at this location. In the first hour, you're at this location. The second hour, you're at this location. And the third hour, you're at this location. Okay? You can repeat that hour. Let's just say you went back to talk about your first hour and you're telling someone you were at this location. That's okay. X can repeat as long as y is the same number. However, if x repeat, let's just say you put a 3 here, that means that if this is not the same number, let's just say, let's go ahead and put 2, that would not be a function because that wouldn't make any sense. How can you at 3 o'clock be at this location and at 3 o'clock be at this location? It doesn't make any sense, so therefore this is not a function. Again, if I were to eliminate this, then it's a function. That's fine. But again, if I repeat this and you have the same value for y, then that would not be a function. All right, now let's do some function problems, evaluating some function problems. They like to do that by giving you something called a function machine. Okay, so a function machine looks something like this. That just means that that equation is a function. That means that if you plug in numbers, you will get an output. All right. So they'll just write something like, oh, what happened if x is -3? What is the output? Or they just rewrite it like this as a function. What is -3? All right. So you can plug in -3 in here, and it's going to go in there. Let's do our work over here. Okay. So we can have 2 times -3. I'm going to use a parenthesis for multiplication. All right, that will give me -6 plus 1, that will give me -5. So when you plug in a -3 and it goes through the equation, obviously it's just a simple math. So your answer would be f of -3 is equal to -5. And it's also called your output. All right, so whatever you throw in there, you get that. Again, you plug in different numbers, you get a different answer. But this one, we just plug in -3. All right, so let's go ahead and do a couple more. Let's go ahead and do number 2. Okay, number 2, again, f of x means it's a function, so we know that's a function. Now we're going to plug in 11. Oops, I don't know why it has an answer right there. My bad. So erase that real fast. All right, so let's plug in 11 in there. Okay, so we're going to have 11 minus 2. I already gave you the answer, but anyway, it's okay. So 9, and the square root of 9 is 3. Let's go back and put a 3 right there. All right, let's do a couple more for practice. Again, you get to take these notes. Make sure you can rewind, fast forward it back up and all that stuff, all right? All right, let's go ahead and do a couple more. Okay, so our first one, or number 3, as you can see, they use g instead. It means the same thing. It's a function. Why they use g instead of f? Who knows, okay? But anyway, it just means it's a function, all right? So I'm plugging -5 in there, so you get 3 minus. I'm going to use a parenthesis because it has an exponent. That's going to look really confusing without it. Okay. Now, you always want to do what's the exponent first. Don't do a double negative. That means you're actually adding and subtracting first. So you want to actually do the exponent first. Okay, so it's 3 minus negative 5 to the second power is a positive 25. And my final answer is negative 22. And let's put negative 22 over here. All right, let's move on to number 4. Again, I'm plugging a 2 in there, so I'm going to get 2. I don't need to use a parenthesis for this one because there's no operation around it. Okay, this one there is. If you don't put a parenthesis, it's going to look like 22. All right, so that will give me 5. That will give me, let's see here, 4 minus 5. That will give me 5 over negative 1. Let's go ahead and rewrite our answer up here. The answer is just negative 5. Again, 5 divided by negative 1 is negative 5. All right? All right, let's go ahead and do number 5. So again, now we're putting a negative 5 in there. This one is an absolute value sign. And if you forgot what that means, I'll explain it right now. I'm going to use a parenthesis. Plug a negative 5 in there, so negative 5 minus 14. Absolute value just means how far is that number from the number 0. And when you talk about distance, there is no negative number, okay? So for example, if you go left of the negative sign, you're still, like let's say you're 5 miles away. Even though it says negative 5, you're still 5 miles away. If you go up this way from the 0, 5, you're still 5 miles away. You're still 5 miles away. You're still 5 miles away. So absolute value just means a positive number regarding distance from 0. All right. Okay. So anyway, your goal is to, when you do an absolute value, is to remove the absolute value. You can't do that yet unless there's only one number. So let's make that into one number. So 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. Again, don't remove the absolute value yet. Absolute value now, there's only one number. So again, this means go left 10. How far from 0? You are only 10 minus 14. The answer is negative 4. Let's put negative 4 right here. All right. Now let's go ahead and do more absolute value problems. All right. Again, same thing. Your goal is to remove the absolute value sign. And as you can see, you only can remove it if there's only one number, and there's only one number there, so you can't remove it. Now, how far are you from 0? I'm going to remove the bar. You're 24. The absolute value goes away. Plus, again, this one goes to the right 24. How far are you from 0? You're still 24. All right, so the answer for this one is going to be 48. All right, let's move on to the next one. Number 2. Now again, you can't remove the bars yet because there's 2 numbers in there. In fact, there's an operation. All right, so let's do the operation so we can get to one number only. That will give me negative 6.2. And now you can remove that, and the answer is just 6.2 miles from 0, or something from 0. All right, last one, number 3. This one here has, again, 2 absolute value signs, just like number 1. This one here only has one number in each one of them, so you can remove it now. How far from 0? You're 8. And I know some of you guys thinking, do you do a double negative here? No, you do not. Always do the absolute value sign first. Remove that. This is part of adding, subtracting. That's the last thing you do. All right. So how far from 0 for this guy? Before that, let's put the minus sign. That gives you 40. And you see there is no double negative actually. All right. The answer is negative 32. All right. Let's move on to our last part of our notes. And then there you go. Now we're going to evaluate. Evaluate just means find the answer. All right. Find a number. All right. So for this one, they gave you an equation. And this one has y, not f of x. What does that mean? That means it can or cannot be a function. And it is a function, but that's what, if there's no f of x, it just means you don't know if it's a function or not. All right. Anyway, so this just means let's evaluate if negative 3 in there. Okay, so we can plug a negative 3 in there. So you don't need to put the y if you don't want to. So 2, and I'm going to use a parenthesis, negative 3 to the second power minus 8. Again, negative 3 times negative 3 is 2. I'm going to use a parenthesis again. It's still multiplying, so it's 9 minus 8. That gives you 18 minus 8. The answer is 10. All right. Now, if you want to write y is equal to 10, so you plug in negative 3, you get y as 10. All right. Let's move on to number 2. Now this one has no y because again you're just evaluating, so you can just, they just want you to find the answer and you don't really care about the y. Okay, so plugging a 2 in there, okay, so you get 8 minus 2 times 4 to the second power. You don't really need a parenthesis. That's not a big deal, okay? Anyway, so again, when you look at this, you always want to do the exponent first. So I'm going to get 2 times this gives me 16. Then you can multiply. That will give me 32, and my final answer is negative 24. All right, let's go ahead and finish our lesson by doing the last one, number 3. Number 3, oops, let's just erase this quickly. Sorry. All right. This one has no x and has no y, but we still can evaluate because it's just simple math, all right? In fact, it's PEMDAS, so it's multiple operation. You always want to do the parenthesis first, and in the parenthesis has 3 numbers and 2 operations. So you have to make sure you do the correct operation first. So that's 4 times 2, and then 6 minus whatever that is. And you can do that 8 right there, so 6 minus 8. This part right here will give me negative 2. Let me rewrite the whole thing first. And this parenthesis right there will give me negative 2. One more time, that's 8. 6 minus 8 is negative 2. Rewrite that part. All right, now it looks like I have an exponent and multiplication and division. Exponent first. Now, this one doesn't have a parenthesis, so it's actually 8 to the second power. This minus sign could mean something else. It could mean there's a number here and you're supposed to do something first. So you actually want to ignore that for a second and just do 8 to the second power. So you get negative 64. Again, 8 to the second power is 64, and that's still there. That could be part of something else. It's not negative 8 times negative 8, okay? All right, plus, let's rewrite it for negative 2 divided by negative 2. I'm going to multiply next. Again, there's nothing inside a parenthesis, so that's just really just like negative 2. And negative 8 divided by negative 2 will give me 4. That's a negative divided by negative is positive. That gives me negative 60 is my answer. All right, that's the end of our lesson on June 18th. You can pretty much do all the problems for today's lesson. There's 2-part assignments, so make sure you submit the first assignment and then submit the second assignment by the end of June 18th, all right?